I'm gonna give you the best kettlebell exercises, and we're gonna start right now. One of the biggest things that I've learned being at the Olympics in 2024, being at the Olympics in 2021, was that athletes do a lot of crazy exercises, a lot of different exercises. And I've been someone that we've used kettlebells, but usually we just use kettlebells if we're doing heavy dips or we're doing heavy pull-ups or rope climbs, anything like that. But since 21, being in Tokyo, I started to see some of the best athletes in the world using kettlebells. I started to play around with that. And that first big lesson was that using a heavier kettlebell and just executing simple kettlebell swings, okay? Sitting back through the flat foot, extending as much as possible here, squeezing those hamstrings, teaches the athlete how to have flexion into extension with some type of rhythm. Okay, you can do this for a long period of time, and that can be a teaching tool. Kettlebell swings can be a teaching tool to get a weightlifter or to get a thrower or to get a football player to learn how to extend after they've had hip flexion. So think about if you're doing a clean here and I have hip flexion, I'm gonna extend rapidly and then flex again. And that's the real big benefit of using something like a kettlebell swing. On top of that, you're gonna load your posterior chain. So you're gonna load your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back. And then if we're someone like a wrestler using kettlebell swings, you can get into something like a time situation where it's, let's do 17 kettlebell swings, rest for 45 seconds, and then do that again. That's gonna lead to some serious strength endurance. So one of my favorite movements is indeed the kettlebell swing. Now I'm gonna show you another thing here using this kettlebell is that I wanna do something maybe a little bit more dynamic. And this is something that we'll use either on athlete day or on impulse day. And you can do this as a warm up as well, okay? So if I wanna go here and I can do an RDL, come down, and I wanna come through rapidly and hold this into a single arm snatch, okay? So I can load, boom. And what this ends up doing is it trains my trunk to have good stability. I can feel my hamstrings lengthen, and I can come through this very, very quickly. Now, let's see if I can do it on this side. Boom. As I break my watch, boom. Boom. Okay, so we can do single leg RDL into a snatch with a hip lock. You can do that as a really good warm up, or you can do that almost as a GS contrast method where you would do this as a reflexive exercise and then pair that with like single leg bounds. Okay, so these are two fantastic kettlebell exercises that you guys can use today. Now, let's get into a bodybuilding exercise with kettlebells. Okay, so we've done videos where we've shown doing glute ham holds, and you can do rows with kettlebells. Now, I'm gonna show you an actual bodybuilding exercise, and we're gonna show you two of them that you can do over this using kettlebells in two different manners. And they're gonna train your biceps and your forearms, ironically, and we're gonna be using the GHD to do that in two different ways. So first one, I'm gonna get set here. Oh, there we go. And I wanna use this. Boom, boom. Boom, 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 as a way to train that clamp strength, that grip strength. So if you're in Muay Thai, right? Or if you're a football player and you need to focus on preventing fumbles, or if you're a grappler, now you're gonna be using that grip to grab the kettlebell head, okay, and squeezing that well, while you're also going through elbow flexion. Then you're gonna be squeezing your abs all at the same time, okay? So this transfers really well to mat strength. You could do something like 4 or 5 sets with a heavier kettlebell that's wider, and it's gonna blow up your forearms. Now, one more exercise that I'll do here on the GHD for my biceps using kettlebells is I would get set here, okay? And I grab these, and I can hold here and turn. And one thing I want to point out is that a lot of younger kids, when they first start to do these kettlebell curls, they almost go like limp wristed here, and it'll drop, okay? Because they don't have the strength yet in the pronator teres, they don't have the strength in the brachioradialis. So we need to be focused on squeezing the pinkies, okay, and through the thumb. And that's gonna hold that stable as we get to the top. And if we think about the weight being further away from our hand, it makes it a lot harder. Okay, so you can use these types of curls for a lot of different sports. They're also just really fun to do, but use kettlebell curls with the head or with the handle with a lighter one. Do it over the GHD, but you might piss off some power lifters. Okay, so one of the things that we like to do inside of our strength training app is to provide finishers for athletes and provide finishers for anyone who's inside of athletic fitness. So if you guys need help with your programming, you wanna get a little stronger, you wanna hit some big PRs, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, Apple iOS Store, download Peak Strength, get inside of one of our programs today. Now, one thing that I wanna show you first would be a squatting halo, okay? So let's say, I go here, right? And obviously I'm not squatting yet, and I just work through opening up my upper back, okay? One thing I've noticed is that as I'm running more, I'm substantially tighter in my shoulders than when I was actually lifting. So it takes me a little while to get a little bit more mobile. So that could be just a standing halo that you use to really start to loosen up. Now, if I get down here, I'm tight. I can go here. And work through. I'm almost falling over. And that's gonna help with my mobility. So we can do a squatting halo. And the reason why I wanted to show you that first is because it's gonna lead into the next exercise. So the next movement would be if I'm sitting down perfectly flat, okay, I can get here and I can do Z presses. Just like this, okay? So I can go Z press here. And I really like to use kettlebells for Z press because of how it feels on my shoulders. Now, if I press and try to really squeeze my upper back, I have to focus on squeezing my abs. Okay, so I just did that squatting halo. Now I'm getting into the Z press. I'm teaching you, okay, trigger those abs, because what a lot of younger kids, when they first start to do Z press, especially when they start to do Z press with kettlebells or a barbell, they'll fall over, okay? So that's an issue. So if they're thinking about triggering their abs, okay, and let's say that we did those squatting halos, we go Z press, one of the best ways that we use finishers is to pair a movement, let's say a Z press with something like an alternating V up. So an alternating V up, I'm gonna go here. Okay, so we can go like 9 on each side. So now we've done all the halos. We're gonna hit those Z presses, and let's say we do 4 or 5 sets. We're gonna go Z press for 7, alternating V ups with the kettlebell, 7 to 9 on each side, and you go back and forth, and now you're gonna use that trunk much more effectively with that upper body. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is gonna be based around improving your lockout for a snatch, for a jerk, and this even helps for a bench press. So if you're somebody who is tighter, like myself, in my upper back, I like to use kettlebells to improve my shoulder stability. Now, I'm gonna show you this 2 different ways. I'm gonna get set here. I'm gonna come down, press. And I wanna really think about locking out my upper back right here. And if you notice, I was caving that in. So that's one way that I can do that. So if I'm improving that lockout, I'm improving that thoracic extension, okay? And again, I've noticed that my hips have gotten a lot tighter since I've been running quite a bit more. So when I'm doing that, it actually helps me get a little bit more mobile. Now, I even think this is a little bit harder. If you get set here, you go down. So you can do a snatch press with those kettlebells. So when we're using kettlebells, we like to look at how can we improve sports performance? That's where like the kettlebell swings come into play. Hip flexion, hip extension rapidly. How can we use them for bodybuilding movements? That's where we showed you with those curls. And then how can we use them to optimize mobility and strength in various positions? Trunk control with Z presses, the alternating V ups, all of these factor into how we program. And if you guys need help with your strength training program, head over to peakstrength.app, Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.